One day the sun was slightly lower in the sky, but the heat remained intense. Wei Wuxian leaped onto the roof, lying on the cool tiles with his eyes closed, resting. Lan Wangji, holding a guqin, sat in the long veranda opposite Wei Wuxian and began to play. His 10 fingers were long and fair, and with a casual sweep across the strings produced a clear and melodious sound, like the pristine waters of a mountain spring, washing over the heart. Wei Wuxian glanced back and saw Lan Wangji's figure, wrinkling his nose, and initially thought of leaving. However, there was an indescribable difference in the melody Lan Wangji was playing compared to the pieces Wei Wuxian had heard in Yunxian before. The melodies of the Lan clan of Gusu were typically serene, lofty, and untouched by worldly desires or mundane dust. This piece began gently, carrying the essence of the Lan clan. However, after a few notes, it started to spring and leap energetically. The clear, cold sound of the bells fell gracefully into the realm of mortals, causing hearts to palpitate with emotion. Wei Wuxian found the music intriguing and was just about to savor it when the tune suddenly turned melancholic, sinking into a sigh as deep as nightfall, which made him feel sad. He seemed to hear unspeakable sighs lingering in his ears, and the hand resting on the roof beast slipped down. He thought to himself, "It's rare for the Lan clan of Gusu to have a piece that's somewhat interesting. Who composed it?" From then on, at this time of day, whenever Wei Wuxian was around, Lan Wangji would play under the veranda. After playing for many days, he attracted quite a few listeners. On this particular day, after finishing the piece, he gently brushed the strings and rose with his guqin, only to be stopped by a few daring young girls. They glanced at each other and hesitated for a moment, before one of them finally plucked up the courage to ask him the name of the piece and its meaning. Lan Wangji did not respond. The girls glanced at Wei Wuxian, who was lying on the roof, and lowered their voices to say a few things. Hearing their words, Lan Wangji's face showed a hint of embarrassment, as if someone had hit upon his secret thoughts, and he took a step to leave. Noticing Lan Wangji's rare flustered expression, the girls seemed to be encouraged and became even more enthusiastic, blocking his way completely. Out of necessity, Lan Wangji spoke a few words, but this only made them crowd around him more tightly, as if dissatisfied. Just then, in the middle of his explanation, the heads of the girls who had surrounded him most closely suddenly felt a sharp pain, as they were hit by several lotus seeds in rapid succession. When they turned around, the black head on the roof quickly ducked out of sight. One of them shouted toward the roof, "Senior brother! Stop hiding! We know it's you!" The others teased with laughter. "Senior brother thinks we're flirting with his husband and got jealous." As soon as these words fell, another shower of lotus seeds rained down on them, causing the girls to cry out in pain and scatter. Lan Wangji picked up a white lotus seed that had rolled to his feet, and as he looked up, a figure in black moved away from the rooftop. At the monthly family banquet of Lotus Pier, the lively and bustling atmosphere was as usual, with steam rising from the stoves. Men, women, children, and the elderly wore garish clothes and gaudy accessories, creating a chaotic mix. Amidst the dazzling array of colors, a figure in elegant, exceedingly refined white attire stood out, as incongruous as an exquisite magnolia flower that had fallen into the noisy and smoky din. Its branches and leaves trembled faintly in the tumult, evoking a sense of delicate pity. Servants shouted and hurried back and forth, not daring to ignore the newly appointed guest. Freshly prepared dishes in various vibrant colors, complete with an array of flavors, spicy, sour, sweet, and salty, were continuously served to him, piling up like a small mountain before him. The guests, reeking of alcohol, bumped into the servants, and even before the meal started, they were already drenched in spills. With enthusiastic cheers, guests eagerly raised their cups to toast the esteemed son-in-law. Lan Wangji, who had clearly never experienced such a chaotic scene, was trapped in his seat, struggling to deal with the situation. The elderly and the villagers of the Jiang clan in Yunmeng had mostly never seen him, except for a few who were invited to the couple's wedding. Now they gathered curiously around him with fresh interest. Some offered toasts, while others joked. Upon learning of the strict Lan clan rules that forbade touching alcohol, they reacted as if hearing the most outrageous joke. With a wave of their hands, they dismissed the 3,000 family rules as nothing and began loudly urging him to drink. Lan Wangji politely declined each one, adhering to proper etiquette, but was eventually persuaded by the crowd to drink tea in place of alcohol. He ended up being forced to drink several large pots of tea. Wei Wuxian sat at the other end of the round table, holding chopsticks in his mouth, pretending to be indifferent to the lively scene across from him. Seeing him sitting far away, seemingly unconcerned, the crowd began to voice their disapproval. "Xian, why aren't you helping your husband to fend off the drinks? Look how pitiful he is all by himself." Wei Wuxian spat out a mouthful of lotus root and pork rib soup. The slightly coquettish term husband made him quite uncomfortable, and after choking a few times, he caught his breath and retorted, "Fifth uncle. Who's the one constantly forcing him to drink, making him so pitiful? How dare you put the blame on me?" Fifth uncle shook his head, holding a small wine cup, and said, "It's a family feast. The whole point is this kind of atmosphere. Otherwise, second young master Lan might think we folks from Yunmeng aren't hospitable." Wei Wuxian secretly fumed and thought, "Well, that's just perfect. When I was in Yunshan, I was ignored for a whole month. Why should Lan Wangji be treated like a star surrounded by admirers when he's in Yunmeng? How was I ever going to get even?" With a belly full of mischief brewing, he pretended to be magnanimous and said, "Fifth uncle, you just keep pouring. Go ahead and pour to your heart's content. Don't hold back on my account. Otherwise, how can we live up to our family's warmth and hospitality?" In the end, Wei Wuxian shot Lan Wangji a cheerful look, his smile hiding a trace of schadenfreude. "Right, husband?" As he playfully blinked, the corners of his eyes softly curved, catching a glimpse of starlight. Lan Wangji's heart was held captive by him. His gaze filled the gentle, flowing tenderness that lingered on Wei Wuxian's face, almost as if glued there, without uttering a word. Wei Wuxian, briefly singed by that look, had his smile freeze for a moment. With Wei Wuxian's permission, the guests' enthusiasm became even more unstoppable. Facing the increasingly fierce onslaught, Lan Wangji braced himself with a stern expression, defending himself like a virtuous lady safeguarding her chastity. Yet he was jostled and tilted by people brushing against him, spilling fragrant wine all around. Wei Wuxian grinned, took a deep, appreciative sniff, and finally felt a bit of relief as he took in Lan Wangji's clumsy, beleaguered state. After much difficulty, when one wave of toasts had finally passed, a group of chirping junior sisters surrounded him. Having changed out of their uniform Jiang clan attire, the young girls donned their own casual clothes, lively and enchanting like blossoming spring flowers, pleasing to the eye. Sharing homemade pastries and cakes had always been a family feast tradition. The young girls, carrying food boxes filled with translucent, soft, and sweet fruit and flour cakes, eagerly gathered around, everyone wanting Lan Wangji to have a taste. The combination of beautiful girls and delicious cakes attracted many envious glances, and the junior brothers swarmed over, complaining, "Hey, what about our share? Is it all for second young master Lan? That's so biased." Exactly. Second young master Lan has been married. Aren't you girls afraid of making the senior brother jealous with all this attentiveness? Wei Wuxian continued peeling lotus seeds without missing a beat and said nonchalantly, "What he likes or doesn't like to eat has nothing to do with me." His tone was casual, as was his gaze. Just as he popped a lotus seed into his mouth, he picked up a pair of chopsticks and began to search among the colorful dishes on the table, pausing here and there as if he was having a hard time deciding what to eat next. But in his mind, he thought, "You all had it wrong with your attentiveness. Lan Zhan didn't like sweet food." Lan Wangji watched his every move without showing any expression and calmly said, "Such a kind gesture. How could one bear to refuse?" He extended his chopsticks and picked a bit from various dishes, tasting them carefully, causing the junior sisters to become excited and tremble as they held their food boxes. Wei Wuxian had a half-bitten lotus root fall into his bowl with a thump. After chewing and swallowing slowly for a moment, Lan Wangji finally said in a low, magnetic voice, "Delicious." The young girls were utterly ecstatic, their spirits practically soaring with excitement. Wei Wuxian blinked furiously, trying to confirm if everything before him was just an illusion, but his attempts were interrupted by a stifled laugh from Jiang Yanli. Silently, he grabbed a slice of melon and started eating it resolutely.